Hey, it's Adam's Zdroik. Game week 30 is coming up. The international break is just about over. I'm going over all the Premier League stuff, lineups, injuries, suspensions, all that, just a little bit. All right, here we go. Game week 30. We have just under 10 game weeks left. Some of these teams have 10 matches left in the Premier League season. It's going to be a busy and exciting final couple months here of this season. Of course, we also have Champions League going on as well. But rotowire.com/soccer, we have FPL rankings up, Fantrax rankings up. If you are got the Sorare hat on here, but if you also are into Sorare, we got an MLS Sorare article coming up written by Deke Matthews. That'll be up later Thursday. Some point after this video, we will get to it, but that'll be up on the site. Just a bunch of cheap recommendations, just a bunch of recommendations in MLS for Sorare. You also got the MLS Sorare competition going on right now, whatever the exact name of that is, where there's more prizes. So check that out. That'll be up on the site, rotowire.com/soccer. But I'm going to be using our cheat sheet here, rotowire.com/soccer trial to get our cheats. Looks like they're growing a little bit here. We're Thursday, early Thursday, so we're going to be getting some more cheat sheets as we get going. As you can see, we got the MLS fantasy cheat sheet, all MLS matches. And I'm going to be using the FPL cheat sheet here. We got 10 matches coming up for game week 30. We got the odds in here. We got the goal scoring odds in here, set piece takers, all that good stuff. I'm going over the lineups here. So let's get into it. How about that? Game week 30, Newcastle home against West Ham opened things up. Big news for Newcastle over the break was Sven Botman tore his ACL. So he's going to be out, could be out the rest of the year 2024. He is out. Lewis Miley is out. New back injury. I think it's the third player this season for Newcastle that has had some kind of back injury. So just a couple more guys added to the injury list. We'll see about Livramento. He missed the FA Cup match against Manchester City. I looked before the show. There really hasn't been a ton of information on this. It's some kind of ankle issue. I don't think it's major. So got him in here because I don't believe Trippier is going to be ready to return just yet. So Livramento at right back, and then Lascelles coming in for Botman at center back, and then again, as usual, Dan Burn at left back. And in the midfield, I know Lewis Miley's out, but Joe Willock has been healthy, and he's been starting in the midfield. I do have Jacob Murphy starting over Miguel Almiron. Murphy has been arguably – he hasn't played much this season, but when on the pitch, he has been more of a spark than Almiron is what I'll say. He's been a better contributor than Almiron. So I got Murphy in over Almiron, and then Gordon and Isak in their roles. Isak played for Sweden over the break, so he's good to go. Gordon also fine from, I think he had some kind of minor issue for England, but he's good to go as well. West Ham, so the big news for West Ham, Edson Alvarez is suspended, and that moves James Ward-Prowse back into the starting 11 because he had been benched for the last couple matches. So Ward-Prowse is in there. He goes into this more of a defensive role where Edson Alvarez plays as the defensive midfielder in there. So he's next to Souček in here in this 4-2-3-1. We'll see about Antonio. Antonio, he left. He withdrew from Jamaica. Again, there hasn't been a ton on it. I think he's going to be fine. If Antonio is not good to start, there could be some changes. I guess Maxwell Cornet isn't healthy either, so there could be if Antonio isn't available, Edson Alvarez is suspended, there may be someone else we're looking at. I can't remember. Let me check. One of the last time. I was thinking Pablo Fornals. He's on loan at Betis. Either way, James Ward-Prowse moving back into the starting 11. Maybe Cornet comes in. I don't know who would take the place of Antonio. Danny Ings probably not going to be starting, but never know what happens. Maybe they want to keep this number 9 up here and then have Bowen come in from the wings. But Kudus and Paqueta are both healthy, so that's always a good sign. And then Emerson returned from his groin injury before the break, so he is good to start again. And then Mavropanos and Zuma have been preferred center backs of late over Aguerd. Tottenham home against Luton Town. We haven't gotten an update. Again, I'm talking Thursday. We've only had about 5 press conferences or so, so we're not going to get all of the press conferences um, coming here. So there's going to be a few questions, especially with Manchester City as we get to them. But we're unclear. We haven't heard anything from Mickey Van de Ven if he's going to be ready to start coming back. He was projected to be available at some point at the end of the month or beginning of April. As it is with all muscle injuries, I'm usually on the tentative side, so I got Dragusin in the starting 11 again. Though I do have Richarlison up front. This may be a little bit of a stretch, but when healthy, Richarlison has been preferred in this attack. And then when you combine that with some kind of sort of struggles for Tottenham before the break, I think as long as he's good to go, I know the interview's been going around Twitter and the internet of him talking about his depression kind of a thing. I know that's going around, but he is healthy. He returned just before the break, so he's healthy. If he's in, that moves Brennan Johnson, that moves Timo Werner. Those guys are on the bench, and then Son moves to this left wing or to one of the wings here. Kulishevsky, Madison in there as well. So that is one of the questions. Maybe Richarlison doesn't start. I'd say it about 50-50, but I'm just on the basis of Richarlison seemed to start when he was healthy. And that seems to be the preferred method here for what Postacoglu wants to do. So I got him in there. Sarr, Basuma also in. Luton Town maybe have the most significant injuries in the league, and there are plenty of questions we're going to get here. So before the break, Issa Kabore started at center back, and then Agbene started on the wing. Agbene picked up a hamstring injury over the break, so he's no longer an option to start on the wing. There is a chance we get Kabore over Hashioka here. Hashioka has one start this season. Didn't really go that well. So I'm not completely sold on Hashioka actually starting again. It's just that they don't really have any other options. Osho is dealing with some bruising on his knee. I don't think he's going to be ready to start. Joe Johnson would be maybe most likely to be at center back. He's coming off of mono. So that's another thing there. Not sure he's going to be ready to start either. So they could move again. They could move Kabore back to center back again. And then I'm not sure who they'd play on the right wing. It could be, I mean, they'd go to like Townsend or maybe put Jordan Clark here, maybe put Chong there. Those would be the options. So something to keep an eye on their lineup when it comes out. But it's really hard to tell. I mean, look at all these injuries. They have about 5 center back injuries. They got their top 2 defensive midfielders out. So Mpanzu got him in the starting 11. He started last game, picked up a knock along the way, but he's been training fully. He's good to go. So it could be like Townsend is an option to come in. Joe Johnson. So there are a few ways we can go here. Doughty left after 45 with a hamstring issue in the game just before the break, but I think he's going to be good to go. So the real question will be, is Rob Edwards comfortable with Hashioka starting? If he's not comfortable, they'd probably move Kabore back to center back again. And then we'd see someone like John Clark. Caldy Woodrow is also an option. And then Townsend playing on that right wing. And then you got your guys a little more forward. So those are the questions with Luton Town. Really hard to answer, to have come up with, a great lineup here just because of how many people are healthy for them. But that's what we got for Luton Town. So Sheffield United, Baldock picked up some kind of issue with Greece over the break. I think he's going to be fine, but in case he's not, we'd be looking at like a Ahmedovich returning back to the starting 11. But, Sheffield United, we've had many changes of lineups. Our blaster started just before the break. I think Tom Davies actually started in that game before the break, and then Vinicius came on for him at halftime. Brereton Diaz is back from his injury. McBurney up front. McBurney's been preferred to Asuna. So Ben Osborne on the wing. I believe he did start there in the last game. Yeah, he did start there. So there's not a ton of change I made for Sheffield United. But this is what we got. Baldock's the main question. Cameron Archer's getting closer to a return. I don't think Brewster's really getting close, but Fulham, no injuries. Look at this. Crazy. No injuries. Rodrigo Muniz went off early just before the break, but it wasn't anything major. And in that game, Paulinho returned to the starting 11. He took the spot of Harrison Reed / Tom Kearney, and then Willian took the place of Bobby Dakota Reed / Harry Wilson. So I got that same squad in here. They've been playing really well. Last few matches just before the break, they've been playing well. Muniz has been great up front. He's going to be preferred to Raul Jimenez again, assuming he is fit enough to start. But these guys are it's pretty set. I'd say the questions will be: is Willian going to start again? Is one of Lukic or Paulinho going to be dropped for Harrison Reed or Kearney? Those would be the questions. But I'm going with pretty much the same group that they started just for the break. Nottingham Forest. What do we got here? They went with something a little different just before the break. Again, this was a couple weeks ago, so I know that they started. Dominguez did not start in that game. Danilo did not start. It was Ryan Yates next to someone else. Sangare. Sangare started next to Ryan Yates just before the break. I didn't really think it worked, so I'm going back to Dominguez in the midfield here. And Origi, Nuno Espirito Santo still is a big Origi fan, so I still got Origi in. Chris Wood had a bit of a hamstring tweak just before the break, but 2 weeks off, I think he's going to be fine. He has been preferred to Taiwo Awani, though Awani is also dealing with an injury of his own. We may be able to find some kind of information. I believe the Nuno press conference was earlier this morning. I couldn't find anything significant given information on those guys, but that's what I got there. Callum Hudson-Odoi would also be an option to come in for maybe Alanga, but I got Alanga in there. He played well in that last start. That's kind of it. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at. Willy Boley also started at center back. That's kind of been a revolving door there. Omobali Dele, Niakate, other center backs that have seen time. Just going back to Boley, who started that last game for him. Crystal Palace, I don't think I have any changes here. Don't really see a massive reason to change anything. Olise is not coming back, so nothing crazy is going on. Though we do have Sam Johnstone. I think it was an elbow injury over the break. He could be out for the season. So Dean Henderson moves into the starting 11 once again. I believe this would be his first start under Oliver Glasner. Chelsea injuries. Chalobah picked up something. Wasn't mentioned by Pochettino, though he was listed in their injury report saying that he is going through some kind of rehab, whatever. Chilwell picked up a knock to his knee, a dead leg, something like that in England's last game. I think that was Tuesday. If he's not ready to go, I don't think Colwell is out. So they would have to obviously change something up for left back. Cucurella, that would mean Cucurella starting again instead of Chilwell. Maybe because they're home against Burnley and Chilwell's not 100%, maybe they do go back to Mark Cucurella. Always an option. I put Thiago Silva back in the starting 11 because Chalobah, again, we don't really have a ton of information on what the injury is, what he suffered over the break, but it was mentioned in their injury report. So I got Thiago Silva over Chalobah. And I guess Badiashile came back before the break. Maybe Badiashile comes in. But this is kind of what we got. I'm not sure how much they changed. Again, we had those FA Cup matches before the break as well. So there was some rotation in those. I believe Enzo Fernandez was actually suspended in that last FA Cup match. But this has kind of been the preferred look for Pochettino lately. Burnley don't really have any changes here. Lyle Foster comes in. Did he start just before the break? Okay, he came off the bench just before the break. So I got Lyle Foster coming in for Downey or whoever was starting before. Actually, David Fofana is ineligible to play because Chelsea are his parent club. So David Fofana is out. So I got Lyle Foster. It's been a couple weeks. The thought is that he's going to be ready to start here. So Lyle Foster back in the starting 11, moving Fofana out of the starting 11 there. But otherwise, all this is the same. They had some success. They got, 4 points in their last 2 matches. So something to, I guess, nothing really to monitor here. But I thought Darragh O'Shea may have picked up some kind of knock over their international break. But maybe we'll check that out. But anyways, yeah, Brun Larson, Vitinho, those guys have been starting on the wings. And Vincent Kompany seems to be a manager who, if he finds success in one game, he's not going to tweak it, kind of a thing. So Bournemouth, they could get Lloyd Kelly back. I don't think he's going to be ready to start. They did lose Sinisterra to almost a season ender. I think it's a muscle injury. Can click into his profile here. Hamstring injury while with Colombia. So Sinisterra is out, but Semenyo, Tavernier, Clivert, those have been the guys. Solanke rested a little bit, so he's good to go. Tyler Adams got a bit more run also over the break. So the question when we come into Tyler Adams being healthy, what is that going to look for Bournemouth? Because Christie and Cook have played really well this season. They also have Alex Scott coming off the bench. Is Tyler Adams going to move into the starting 11 at some point here as we close out the season? I think that would be an interesting move. That'll be one of the main questions here that Bournemouth have to answer as they look ahead to the future, as they look at the rest of the season. Max Aarons is also going to be available again, so there are questions of Adam Smith probably not going to be going 90s with Max Aarons available. Aarons could also steal some starts. Got Dango in at left back because he has been, I think, maybe one or only two matches, but he's been preferred to Milos Kerkez there at left back. And Lloyd Kelly, once he gets 100%, I think Lloyd Kelly is going to move either into this left back role or in for Chris Mepham, who is starting over Senesi, who has not returned to training. Everton, we could get some changes for Everton. I didn't make any changes here for him, but again, we could get Calvert-Lewin could be back in the starting 11. That's a 50-50 situation where, Beto had, you could argue he's had some success in his couple starts, maybe not. What was that? What was that last game? Yeah, they lost 2-0 against Manchester United. They gave up 2 PKs against Manchester United. So I'm probably 50-50 on Beto versus Calvert-Lewin. I don't really have a major preference. It's not like either one of those guys has played well this season, but Beto has started the last 2. Idrissa Gueye is healthy again, and he mostly has been preferred to Amadou Onana. So it could be Idrissa Gueye back in this midfield role instead of Onana. They could, probably what they look at. I guess maybe they do like I don't know. This is kind of what we're looking at here. Ben Godfrey has been starting at right back. Maybe Seamus Coleman comes in. There's a chance that something like that happens because Godfrey has started for, I don't know, about the past couple months here. As I click into his profile, he started, every league match since, mid-January there. So he could, but he's an option to move out. If they put Gay, Onana, and Garner in, they could do like a 4-2-3-1. But then at what point, who are you taking on the starting 11? So there are questions like that. If they start Garner, Onana, and Gay to be a little more defensive, but I'm not sure Deitch is going to take that route. So there are options for Everton to mix things up just because they really haven't had much success lately. Aston Villa, Alex Moreno, I got him starting over Luca Digne. He's preferred over Digne. This is kind of what we're looking at. Matty Cash picked up a hamstring injury over the break. He's probably going to be out a couple weeks, so that just means more starts for Ezri Konsa at right back. We did get a picture posted of Jacob Ramsey back on the training pitch. I'm not entirely sure where he's at in terms of a possible return, but I don't think he's going to be ready to start given that he's been out for a few weeks already. So this is kind of what we're looking at with Aston Villa. Morgan Rogers, Moussa Diaby in this role, and then we have John McGinnis still suspended. So Yuri Tielemans started in that midfield next to Douglas Ruiz in that game just before the break. So Zaniolo is also an option. Basically, we're looking at Morgan Rogers probably, 60 minutes, possible 60 minutes with Zaniolo coming in for him. Diaby, another 60-minute option. If Jacob Ramsey's on the bench, maybe even less time for those guys, depending on his health. So a pretty thin team overall, but there's not really many more places that Unai Emery can go. I think I projected Tim Irogbunim in the starting 11 before the break. He does have a start in Europa Conference League, but he did not start. Tielemans started in that midfield role. So I think it's kind of going to be similar there. Wolverhampton dealing with similarly, I guess, same amount of injuries here. There's a chance we get Bellegarde and Craig Dawson back. I don't believe either of them trained today, but we are going to get a Gary O'Neill press conference on Friday. So I don't think either one of them going to be ready to start. If they're not training on Thursday from following an international break, are they going to be starting in this game a couple days later? I don't think so. So they have a few questions here. So I got Santi Bueno in for Craig Dawson. And then the midfield, we have Lamina and Gomez. But Thomas Doyle starting. I did put Cunha back in the starting 11. I'm not sure he's ready to start. Again, I'm not entirely sure how long he's been training over the break. If it's been 2 weeks, if it's been 1 week, if it's been 3 days, but he has been training, so he will be in the squad. He should be in the squad. So Cunha, I got him starting here. Could be Nathan Frazier, but in that game before the break, of note, Lamina actually he was listed as more of an attacking player than Thomas Doyle, but in reality, it wasn't much of a difference. Wasn't really much of a difference. So they just don't have a ton of options here. Huang's still out. Pedro Neto is going to might miss the rest of the season. So that's kind of what they're looking at. There's not a lot of options here in a difficult spot. Brentford, I just put this morning Brian Mbomo back in the starting 11 for Brentford. He takes the spot of Yohan Visa. So that's a pretty big move there. So Mbomo, he's got a couple weeks. He played 10 minutes off the bench before the break. We haven't had a Thomas Frank presser, so we don't have the injury update on Pinnock. I don't know. I'm not sure. I doubt he's going to be ready to start. Norgard, he had, I think it was a back issue before the break. Yeah, it was a back. So Norgard, he would if Norgard was healthy, he'd probably come in with Matthias Jensen. Anyeka has been Anyeka has been in that midfield group there lately, so it's been Anyeka. Whenever it's healthy, it's been Anyeka, Yanel, and Norgard. But without Norgard, Jensen isn't in there. And then Sergio Reguilon, for everyone remembers, he got that red card last game. So Keane Lewis Potter in at left back. At some point they could go back to the 4-3-3, but they just don't really have a true left back. So I'm not. That's probably what is preventing Thomas Frank from actually going back to a 4-3-3 because they don't really have a true left back there. So I kind of doubt it happens in this one unless they've been really working on it over the international break. Speaking of the international break, Manchester United, Casemiro picked up something. He was out in the FA Cup match before the break, but they also got back Rasmus Højlund in that game. I think, was it Wan-Bissaka that returned in that game? Harry Maguire returned in that game, but he also got injured with England over the break, I think is what it was. And so Wan-Bissaka right back, Diego Dalot left back, and then Lindelof next to Varane. If Casemiro isn't ready, we'll probably get Scott McTominay in this role next to Kobe Mainu. And that's kind of what we're looking at. Højlund healthy again, so that is the front four. No major surprises there. I think Darwin Nunez is fine for Liverpool, but he does have that tag there. So we did get the ankle injury to Andrew Robertson over the break. It's not believed to be serious, day long. He's day by day kind of a thing, but if he probably not, maybe not ready to start here. This one is on Sunday, so he has an extra day here to recover. So it could still be Andrew Robertson at left back, maybe Joe Gomez at right back, but Andrew Robertson doesn't start. Joe Gomez at left back. Kanate is back. He returned over the break from his injury, and then Connor Bradley at right back. I know Tsimikas is there, but I almost think Joe Gomez is preferred at left back over Tsimikas, just because he's really had an awesome season. So that's there. And then we kind of got the classic six for Liverpool. I mean, not classic, but this is kind of the preferred six here for Liverpool. Endo with McAllister and Soboslai in the midfield, and then Diaz, Salah, and Darwin Nunez in there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Alisson still not expected back for another couple weeks. So that's a blow to them. TAA hasn't been training, so he's going to be out another couple weeks probably as well. Brighton, they get back Billy Gilmore from his suspension. He was suspended for 3 matches, so that helps a lot to figure out. They've kind of been a little bit of a mess, Brighton have been, but Gilmore back in the midfield kind of eases up some pressure. Julio Enciso, he's gotten a decent amount of run lately. As you can see here, 40, it hasn't been a ton of minutes, but he has been returning from injury. 45, 45, 53, but another couple weeks here over the international break, so he could be closer to 60 minutes in this game. Denny Welbeck up front, starting over Evan Ferguson, a dinger on one side, Bonanote centrally, João Pedro getting closer. I don't think he's going to be ready to start. And then before the break, I think this is what we got with Estupinian left back, Lamptey right back. Again, as we know with Roberto De Zerbi, that he likes to rotate a bunch, so this is probably one of the more difficult ones to project, but I think Estupinian and Lamptey are the guys over your Veltmans, over your Igors kind of a thing. The big game here. So I changed this right before the show. I went back to a 4-2-3-1 technical lineup here. Though again, it doesn't really matter too much for this. So De Bruyne, we know he's missed out with his groin issue. He missed the FA Cup match just before the break. Didn't play with Belgium over the break, but he got a lot of rest. I think he's going to be good to start. Note, I do have Julian Alvarez on the outside looking in. He started a couple matches before the break on that left wing, but he didn't look great. That match against Liverpool, Doku came on and was just seemed like a better option there on the left wing. Julian Alvarez, not really that kind of player. So I got Doku back on the left wing, maybe to give Ben White some troubles, kind of thing. But we still don't have in. We still are waiting on the press conference from Pep. Uh, it, from what I saw, Ederson looks to be fine. John Stones, Kyle Walker, less certain. So if we get this update, Friday morning and Kyle Walker and John Stones are out, we're probably going to be looking at Vardy starting, maybe Rico Lewis starting. Uh, Even if it's like a 3-2-4-1, it's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, we could also get like Kovacic in this midfielder role next to Rodri, and then move up Bernardo Silva onto one of the wings, kind of a thing. So there are a lot of ways that Pep can go here. And I don't really, just because of these new injuries that popped up over the break, I don't think anything is certain. It's a hamstring issue for Kyle Walker. I believe he got scans today on Thursday or yesterday. So we're probably, possibly 30 minutes after the show, we're going to get an update on Kyle Walker saying he's out for a month with a hamstring injury. We'll see. John Stones, I think it's a groin issue. Not the same as a hamstring, but he's had so many injury issues this season. It could be Vardial. We could get the news later today that he's going to be out, and Vardial is probably going to be the guy coming in, because Akanji is also an option, who also picked up an injury, so he's probably not going to be ready to start either. So a few questions there for Manchester City. Arsenal. Gabriel Martinelli missed a bunch of matches before the break, but Leandro Trossard would be the option to start over him again. I just think he's fine. Again, we haven't had a ton of updates on Martinelli over the break. He suffered it. Was it in that Sheffield United match at the beginning of the month? We just haven't had a ton of updates. We'll get something from Arteta. Hopefully, he'll give something definitive on Martinelli's status. I'm just projecting that he's going to be after. It wasn't initially labeled like a serious injury, so we're almost getting to a month here on this absence. So I think that Martinelli's going to be in here. And then the other question would be, now that Zinchenko's ready, now that Zinchenko's has been playing a bit, he played over the international break as well. Is he going to start over Jakub Kiwior? That will be the question here. Kiwior has played well, but Zinchenko has been the guy when healthy this season. So it could be Zinchenko instead of Kiwior, but that's what we got. That's what we got for game week 30. Yeah, got a couple comments here. Any questions? That new kid has to get minutes. Yeah, the who is it? The Argentinian. What's his name? I still Valentin Barco. I don't think that he's actually gonna. We'll see. I guess he wasn't registered for their Europa League roster. Um, yeah, Barco could eventually get minutes. Maybe the international break. Deserby was sold on him, but he's still a young kid. I'm just not sure he's going to be thrown into the lineup here with Brighton. Fighting for spots on the table. Uh, maybe Deserby really hates Estupinian, which has kind of been. He kind of said that earlier in the season. So maybe Barco does get some minutes here. I wouldn't say he's going to start immediately, but maybe eventually Barco sees some minutes for Brighton. But that's all I got. Grant, rotowire.com/soccer trial. It's a 48-hour trial. Check out the odds. Tottenham are the biggest favorite. Home against Luton Town with a 2.61 implied goal total. That is Manchester City against Sheffield United implied goal total. This is a massive implied goal total for Tottenham here at 2.61. The game is 3.65. That's pretty big there. So what does that mean for the goal odds? We got Son at -150, the same odds as Salah. Richarlison's also up there. So Okay. I guess, maybe the odds makers are taking into account the 10 center back injuries that Luton Town have. But anyways, thanks for watching. We got our betting kits and wagers show coming out Friday. We got DFS stuff coming out Friday as well. A little bit of everything. MLS Sorare content coming out later today as well. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to the Premier League. We got less than 10 game weeks to go.